Hello everybody, welcome back to the pYanodons playthrough. Fantastic Mr. Ghost. As promised, I'm working on some trees. I'm a lumberjack. So here is the MK03 tree spin-up. In this episode, I'll be going through all the spin-ups to detail them because I thought it'd be fun and it might be interesting for somebody who's playing this game or looking to get into it. Long time ago, I created my first tree. It must have been a year ago. And the way you do it is you have to have a planter's box and 3 tree seedlings. And then the tree pops out in a botanical nursery here. In order to get a tree seedling, you need tree seeds, 5 moss, and 100 water. And tree seeds come from wood. So you just basically chop some trees down, get wood, put them in a assembler here, and then you get your tree seeds. So it's very easy to start up your first tree farm. The tree MK02 is a little tricky to spin up. It's not too bad. You need the tree seed MK02 to start making tree MK02s. And we're getting a little tricky here where we need a ground sample, tree seed MK02s, moss, and water. And this is where it starts getting crazy. You need a moss gene sample, an MK01 tree, and tailings in order to get a chance now to get a tree seed MK02. This is the initial recipe that takes a long time to spin up. And then once you get 5 tree seed MK02s, you're set. Oh, actually, I think it's 3. Because I think you need 3 tree seedling MK02s to make 1 tree MK02. So once you get your first 3, then you're good to go on the saplings. Here's the MK03 tree seed spin up. This gets a lot more involved, as you can imagine. We need cDNA, moss gene samples, tree MK02s, of course, tailings, and anthracene oil for some reason. Now, anthracene oil is from the tar processing, so you have to have that up and running, obviously, but that's usually a beginning game type thing anyway. The moss gene sample is petri dishes and moss. cDNA is a little crazy. So your MK03 tree here is going to take some time. Retroviruses require Vrauc cocoons and a whole setup, 2 builds basically. Lab equipment is pretty involved. The biosample and moss gene samples aren't that tough though. Plasmids, a little bit. I think we covered that. Or no, we didn't cover that. Let's look at the plasmids. Here they are. It requires Zogna bacteria, an incubated petri dish, laboratory instrument, and glassware. The laboratory instrument is probably the toughest thing here. So all this is quite involved. Just the cDNA. Once we get a tree seed MK03, we need a sapling. And we'll need 3 saplings in order to spin up our first MK03 tree. And it's not too bad, but the chelators are a little bit new. So let's take a look at those. Chelators are basically just moss and seaweed. So it's the easiest thing to make. And you don't need a lot of it, you just need it. So I'm making it here and piping it around. And then the soil sample is rich clay and soil. Rich clay is simply ash and water, so it's not too bad. So here's the MK03 tree recipe. We need 3 tree seedlings, planter's box, sodium alginate, and muddy sludge. The MK02 tree is everything but the sodium alginate. So what I'm going to do is take this fast wood forestry and just change the recipe once I get my 3 saplings. And I have 2 already. So hopefully that 3rd one will come quick and I can shut this all down. And that's it for the trees for now. Now it's time for some sap tree MK03s. Let's start with the sap MK01 first. Sap is randomly generated from chopping down trees, so once you get some, you're pretty much well on your way. All you gotta do is put the sap in a botanical nursery and it'll generate 2 sap seeds. 5 sap seeds along with 1 planter's box gives you a sap tree, MK01. And you're done. In order to generate sap consistently, all you gotta do is put the sap trees as a module in a sap extractor. In order to get a sap tree MK02, it's a little more involved. Here are the ingredients. Once you get the seeds, you can make a tree. And here it is. Bone meal is obtained from rendering animals. I'm doing Ulrichs. Notice you need 6 MK02 seeds. So this process here, you'll have to run until you get 6 seeds, and it's a consistent recipe. After you get your MK02 sap trees, you can put them in a sap extractor and generate MK02 sap consistently. The MK03 sap tree seed is the same as the MK02. All you need is 6, along with the same materials. Once you get those 6 seeds, you can put the sap tree MK03 into a sap extractor. And then you're generating MK03 sap. Right now I'm generating MK02 sap trees, and I have to get my first 6 seeds. And there we go. And there it goes. Might as well pull the machine up because I don't want any extra seeds lying around. And our first MK03 tree. Now, simply all we got to do is change the recipes on our sap trees from the MK02 to MK03 versions. This sap extractor gets the MK03 module. While I'm waiting for some trees to build up here to make this a little faster, let's go over by the wood processing area, because I got 3 saplings. And here they are. I got 3 finally. One thing I didn't realize was the MK03 seeds produce quite a bit of MK02 seeds. So I was able to shut off the seed generator for the MK02 tree production. As a point of reference, the MK02 forestry has a craft speed of 4.32. Keep that in mind. Copy and paste the recipes here. Now I'm going to change the recipe here to the MK03 tree. And there it is. We now need sodium alginate requested here. And there it is. Now I'll take my tree saplings here and put them in the fast wood forestry. And now we are making MK03 trees. And I'll take the trees out and I'll save those just in case something happens and I lose my MK03 trees. Chances are I won't, but it's good practice. I forgot I need Chelator for this. Now we're making the tree sapling MK03s into trees. Well, looky here. We got some modules. I'll put the modules in this one. This is where I'll store all my old MK02 modules and any other modules that are older. I'm looking at the Vrauk MK03s right now. I totally forgot about these little bugs. But we'll probably do this later because it is more involved. And if I'm going to do this, I might as well make the quality Vrauk food as an actual trainable item, because I wouldn't mind upgrading the Vrauk paddocks to consume this. Now, the casein requirement here is a part of science, so I might need to upgrade or increase the size of the Corlex milk build. I also have grods. I spun those up a little while ago. Here are the grods. I'll cover these in maybe a creature tutorial later on. They're not too tough to spin up though. And there we go, fully moduled. Look how fast this sap generator is. It's crazy. So we have a craft speed of 5.77 now on our MK02 sap generators. Now, there's another recipe I was looking at for sap generation, but these look just fine to me. Here's a system I'm playing around with the sap trees to sap. Now this is using an MK01 sap tree, and you get 25 to 30 sap. It kicks out a seed and some biomass. Now I'm curious as to what the MK03 2 and 3 will do, so I'll have to look at that. But for now, the sap extractors seem to be just fine. And the involvement to set this up is quite high. I like just being able to plop a machine down, fill it with modules, and be done with it. But I'll give this recipe a chance for sure. Alright, I finally have enough trees, and I wanted to close out the tree part now. So we have a craft speed of 4.32 on the fastwood forestry, and now it's 6.2. Almost 6.3. Not bad. The MK02 fastwood forestry takes 40 modules, so that's quite a bit. Now when it comes to MK01 versus MK02, 3, and 4, the difference is the amount of modules that can be placed in these, I guess you could say, creature and plant generators. So the overall machine doesn't go up in speed, it's the module amount that you could put in there, and that increases the speed. One of the major ingredients in the food production for the animals is starch. So I want to work on that next, and then it will be easier to ramp up the animals. As you can see, the deluxe fish food needs starch, and that's the only thing I need in order to spin those up. And then I can also get the MK03 fish going, as well as the Vraux here. So I have a bunch of machines here, and I'm going to try out a new recipe for the Rhalasias. This is an MK02 Rhalasia plantation. It takes 24 modules, so what I'll be doing is upgrading all the Rhalasia plantations that feed the augs and other animals. But that'll be later. This recipe is more advanced than the one I'm using currently in the base. It requires ash, biomass, and fertilizer. I'd like to upgrade the base to this new recipe to get better flour production, but I have to go into Hellmod and refactor everything. Let's take a look at Hellmod and design a starch build. And just like magic, here it is. Now I updated Hellmod recently to version 1.0.4, and there's some changes that I don't understand what's going on, specifically when adding water. Now this sodium sulfate recipe in the chem plant kicks out water. In the past, you would just add a water source and Matrix Solver would resolve it. But for some reason, when I added the water source, the chemical plants were at like 8 or almost 9. And after adding the water source, they stayed at 9. So it's like it didn't recognize the water source. And the water source stayed at 0. So what I did is I deleted the water source here, being the pump jack, and the chemical plant recipe here, the sodium sulfate. I put the water source in first, and then I put the chemical plant in, and it fixed it for some reason. And I don't understand why. Usually, Matrix Solver would resolve any new inputs or outputs as you added them. What was happening is the chem plant output water source was being interpreted as an input to the soil extractor and the Rhalasias. I was getting frustrated, but I'm glad I figured it out. So, what I have here is a half yellow belt of starch designed. I'm already making the fiberboard, so I'll train that in, and there is a better recipe I haven't implemented yet. I'll have to run over there and check it out and see if I can get it going. This is the one I'm using currently. There's an 8x fiberboard recipe here. It adds the sodium sulfate. And now there's a 12x fiberboard recipe. It adds anthraquone. Now I have the anthraquone, but I don't have the sodium sulfate on any train system. So I usually just make that locally. It also reduces the byproducts, which is really nice. There are absolutely 0 byproducts for this recipe. I installed a new mod, and it allows you to search the map. By pressing Shift F, you can pull up a factory search GUI. Clicking on this large box here pulls open the signal selection screen. Now I can search the map for the fiberboard location. Clicking on this inserts it into the GUI. Mousing over the small box here, you'll notice that the fiberboard has a distance of 2.5 kilometers from where I guess I'm at. Clicking on this small box brings you to the location of where I have the fiberboard marker. Now, obviously there are other options here, like ingredient, product, storage, logistics, module, entity, ground, request, and signal. This is crazy. Now, I do believe this is a Factorio 2.0 feature they introduced in the latest Friday Facts, so I think a mod dev just jumped on it, and now we have a Factorio 2.0 feature before it releases. The fiberboard build has the black liqueur. This is the lower of the recipes here, the worst one. And unfortunately, I'm creating acetone from that. Using our fancy search feature, I have 2 locations with acetone. This one's closer, so I think that's my official build. And here it is. So I guess you could say I'm safe to update that recipe and my acetone will stay in place. I'm over by the fiberboard build now, and I think it's ready to be updated to the new recipe. It's the 12X recipe. This is going to be great. I went ahead and ripped up all the pipes that were exporting, I think it was tall oil and the black liqueur. I ripped up all the machinery here, and I have 1 train stop that will deliver the 2 fluids we need. Well, it turns out the graphic for fiber and raw fiber are very similar, and I didn't notice that in the recipe. So, luckily, all I have to do is take the raw fiber and spin it in a centrifuge. So I'll set that up. I left these pipes disconnected because I didn't want to have any problems, because originally it was a steam input. And there we go. Fiber! The raw fiber to fiber has a reduction of 50%, but we're increasing our fiberboard output by 12 now, so that should translate to a savings in material. I'd like to save the carbon dioxide, but it's just more pain than it's worth having to run a train over here, and I'm making plenty of carbon dioxide elsewhere. As you can see, the train's going crazy with sodium hydroxide, and that is on the docket, as I mentioned in the last episode, an upgrade to the sodium hydroxide build. I'm not worried about raw fiber. I've got plenty here from the Kike build, and I actually have 2 of these. This one has a little bit of coal dust coming from it as a stopgap measure, just in case. I'm updating the LTN request amounts because the trains seem to be coming here a lot, so we'll see how that goes. And this is going to be the case for the whole base. I'm going to have to refactor every single LTN combinator with all these upgrades I'm doing. As promised, here is the starch build. Apologize for the flashing power lights. The power's off for a reason, and that is because the soil extractor will start to work and I'll have all this crap to clean up. Now, the electrolyzer here and the water extractor, or pump jack, they're about a half red machine, so I don't mind venting the oxygen. It's really easy to make, and I don't really care for, again, having all these LTN stops all over the place just to collect a little bit of oxygen. Here's where I'll bring in the ash and biomass and the fertilizer. Fiberboard and sodium hydroxide, as well as sulfuric acid inputs here. I've got a long arm inserter that will take the sodium sulfate and export it into the starch machine. And here's the powdered Relasias. I've got some seeds lying around that I can put in here, and I can also go to a build and grab some. And once the seeds are in, the flowers will get produced. The flowers just go straight on over to the other side of the build here, and then the seeds will get generated from the botanical gardens. I've got a priority splitter here to ensure that the flowers are always being made, and the extra seeds will go down and get powderized. And that's it. So I'll go and hook this sucker up. Alright, I think we're ready to fire this thing up. Now, one of the things I noticed is that the inserters now are, they removed filter inserters, the purple ones. Rest in peace. And the pYanodons devs are following the new Factorio 2.0 version that's coming out, where they removed the filter inserter, and now all inserters have the ability to blacklist and whitelist. Now, one of the things that kind of frustrates me is that the inserters default to blacklist, so whatever you're setting up as a filter is not exported, but everything else is. And I don't understand that logic. If I'm setting a filter, that means that's what I want. Now, I'd like to be able to, change that default somehow, but I'm not sure where that would be. All we need is 13 seeds to kickstart one of these machines, and here they are. Holy cow, we got flowers already. These are a craft speed of 6. I am in heaven. And there we go, our first seed generation officially on this build. While this spins up, we'll talk a little bit about this recipe here. We need 13 Relasia seeds to produce 25 Relasias. So that's over a 50% yield. And we only need 5 flowers for 8 seeds, so that's not too bad. And there we go, our first seeds. Going in to get powdered up here, so let's check this out. How many does this take? Oh, 15. Wow, that's quite a bit. And there we go, we have starch. Awesome. Oh, and I need to limit this case here. I'll probably do that much there. And I went ahead and set up the LTN stop. I have a counter on this. It's set to the inserters, the mini loaders are set to set filters, so I don't have a train sitting here loading forever and ever. Now what's going on here? Oh, I got biomass. Oh yeah. Oh, here, I forgot. I have a biomass here, and I wanted to loop it back into this case, so let me go ahead and do that. And there we go. Looks like I'll have to update this to a stack inserter instead of a fast. Now, the solid separator is only supposed to work 0.84 So it's not 100% running, so, and that's fine. That's the way I designed it. That's a slick little build. I like how tight it is, and this is a great reference to the upgrades that I'll make to the flour producers where I have AUG food and all that. I like to have the flour builds within the AUG builds. The only downfall is you have to find where they all are and upgrade them. That's why I'm using map markers religiously now. Spaghetti time! I hope you like my spaghetti. I just ate, so I'm not hungry. Please have some. But we also need to feed our fish with some deluxe fish food. So here I am at the deluxe fish food build. It is a mess. I don't care. I'm rebuilding it someday. I don't know when. Don't quote me on that. So here, let's take a look at what this recipe is. Now, oh my God. Oh, I added the Yotoi over here. I patched this in so the fish can eat that. Well, actually, it's going to be, yeah, fish MK03. Boy, they're picky eaters, man. They want the best. So the only thing, as you can see, missing is starch, and we just got that done. That's a lot of stuff. That is a lot of stuff. And as you can see, this train stop has 2 low unloaders. Yeah, this is a pretty involved build. So let's call in some starch. And there it is. Let's get this deluxe food going. Load it up, baby. So I have 2 mini loaders here, and I had to wire them up because I'm using a dual stop. So LTN can handle that because of the set filter feature that we have with Factorio. And the LTN combinator outputs what's being loaded. So I have the first mini loader here set to 300 because you have to shut the input mini loader off or inserter. Same thing here. I have 300 deluxe fish food. Now there is a slight adjustment that you have to do on your loading, and that is you need the filter inserter or mini loader on the front, or else material will get caught because there's a it's not a belt, but it's a buffer, a little buffer between 2 mini loaders. It's kind of a pain in the butt, but you could get contamination here. So you have to do a filter mini loader or inserter in this case it's mini loaders. If you use inserters, you have to make sure that you use a feature called lock slots in the train so that the inserter will be able to export. And that is mainly for full load trains that you have multiple items at one stop, if that makes any sense. In this case with mini loaders, because the material stays on the belt for a little bit, and I can show that in a second. Here, let me find one. Here's the Kevlar, and as you can see, there is material in between the 2 mini loaders. So there's a tiny little section of belt on each mini loader. It combines to, I think, about a belt worth or something, maybe more. This is the case where it's okay because it's just 1 item. Now for this case, because I have 2 items, I have to put the mini loader first and control it from there. Any extra material that slips through the mini loader will go into the train, so there'll be extra in the train there. This is a very slow machine. I hope I can update this one. I'll have to look to see if there's an MK2 unlocked or available. Yeah, that's slow. So I'll have to rework this whole, like I said, I'm going to rework this whole build, and the deluxe fish food and fish food will be probably the same area. And, I'll just use belt straight out and pick off with splitters and have the whole build in one area. 2 builds in one area, I guess you could say. I'm over by the fish build here, and this is where I spun up the MK02 fish. This is a weird one. The MK02 fish kick out regular fish eggs as well as MK02 fish eggs. And the fish generator here also kicks out MK01 fish along with the MK02 fish. So I had to set up some filters, and I am not using the fish right now, so I have to use a composter. So these inserters are filtered to whitelist the MK02 eggs and fish, and these 2 inserters are for the MK01 fish and eggs. And I'm belting that stuff over here, turning it into biomass, and then venting the carbon dioxide, because this process I think is temporary. I don't think I'm going to need this to be in here all the time. We'll look at the MK03 fish when I go back up to the hub. Let's flow them. Let's go over all the fish and how to get them up to the MK03s. First, you have to go fishing. And all you gotta do is find a body of water and find some fish. I did this over a year ago. Phytoplankton is quite an interesting recipe. It is basically just refined tin and water. And of course, saline water is just salt water. Once you generate the fish eggs, then you add oxygen, saline water, and biomass with lamps, and you start to generate fish. It takes a while to spin these up when you're in beginning game. There's 2 more recipes to generate fish. This is the one I'm using right now. It's oxygen, saline water, fish food, of course the eggs, and then we have biomass, filtration media, and lamps. Once I get a better build for deluxe fish food, I'll run this one, and it's way better, 30 fish. I really don't understand why we have to have fish food and deluxe fish food. I think that the fish food should be removed, and the deluxe fish food should be the only one you need. Here's the spin up for MK02 fish. You have a 0.5% chance to generate one. So we have filtration media, fish food, 20 fish, 10 seaweed, and then the phytoplankton. There's a 50% chance to return 10 fish. So what you do is you set up a speaker on a case, and when you get the fish you need of the MK02 versions, you come over and then you can continue on. I forgot to mention that there are 3 recipes for MK01 fish eggs. This one is the basic fish egg, and it's just fish, phytoplankton, and saline water. Then we have the slightly better one, which is the one I'm using currently, and that provides 30 fish eggs. Adding seaweed provides even more fish eggs, 35. Now that I'm looking at this recipe, I think I'm going to upgrade my fish eggs to this. There's also a render fish recipe, and this is what I use to get the fish oil. In order to start the MK02 fish process, you need 4. And this is what I was talking about earlier. It generates 10 fish egg MK02s. There's a 50% chance to get 2 additional, and that's where your yield goes up. And then again, it produces the regular fish eggs, which I'm just getting rid of. Once you get the eggs, you can start the MK02 fish process. You have a 50% chance to get an extra 2, so that's where you get your build up. And then, of course, the regular fish, which I'm just turning into biomass and venting into the air. Now we have the MK03 fish. Here's the spin up part where you have to get an MK03 fish. It's a 0.4% chance on this one. And this is why I needed the deluxe fish food. And notice that we need the good alien sample, as I mentioned in the last episode. We need 5 MK03 fish to start this process in order to get the eggs. It's 10 eggs with a 50% chance to get 2 additional. And it generates the MK02 fish eggs, which is kind of nice. Going back to this recipe, I don't understand why they're not giving us MK02 fish now that I see this. However, we can use the fish egg MK02s to make MK02 fish, and then we can keep this process kind of running a little bit and not have to request the MK02 fish as much. And then there's the MK03 fish producer. So we have 6 and 2, potentially 8 total. Oh, this one generates the MK02 fish. Okay, so there we have the ability to loop that back around and save on that. And then we have the fish eggs, which we can produce MK02 fish from those. So I'll get this set up and we'll fire it up. All right, it's time for some MK03 fishies. Let's get cracking. I set the build up and I have it in such a way where I can flip the machines around, or well, just basically change recipes. It'll be one less fish farm. I think that's what these are called. Yeah, one less fish farm will be here. This egg recipe will replace this one here with the circle around it. The one with the circle around it is how we get our 4% or 0.4% chance to get the MK3 fish. So once we get 5, then this machine comes out, and then this machine will replace it. This machine on the bottom here is how we take our eggs and make fish, and then it goes back and forth until there's no more, until the case is filled. Now, there is the MK02 fish spit out here on this machine, and then we also have the MK02 fish eggs. So what I'll do is make biomass out of that, and I'll store it in this area here in a provider chest. I set up this fish hydroslate, and you're taking fish and adding the sodium hydroxide and then, I guess, sulfuric acid to break it down a little bit. And you have to feed these to the fish. So I went ahead and set this up. Now I have a feedback belt here, and I'm requesting the fish and the sodium hydroxide here. So my hope is that the kick out here for the regular fish will get consumed in the hydroslate, and I won't have to worry about it. So let's fire this baby up. Bring me the fish food. Deluxe fish food, folks. There we go. And now we have MK03 fish hopefully popping out of this thing. So, oh my god. I had to run down to the fish MK02 area. I had the mini loaders facing the wrong way. Then I had to run down to the deluxe fish food area, and I forgot to disconnect a red wire to the mini loader that was not filtered. I switched them and forgot to remove the wire. So, yeah, it's always something with these builds. And yeah, I just run over there and, you know, take care of it. Oh, what's this now? Oh, I forgot. I gotta do this here. Yeah, it's putting the fish in here. So what I gotta do is filter this. I gotta whitelist the MK03 fish. And as you can see, it's kicking out quite a bit of fish there. Look at this. I got 24 in here, and I'm requesting 12. Wow, this thing is fast. I hope I get an MK03 fish quick. And I need 5 of them to get the other process started up. All right, so I'll break back in when I get my fish.
One eternity later.
I finally got 5 MK03 fish. Huh. This took a long time, but I was doing other stuff, preparing for the next episode of Animal Spin-Ups. So, first let me show you what I had to do to get enough MK02 fish into this machine here. I had to build an entire MK02 fish build in a block over here. And I found out that each egg machine or egg producer is required for a fish producer. So it's almost like a 1-to-1. And what I observed was that this bottom machine here would sometimes back up. So it was pretty much a 1-to-1. And so if you set up a MK02 fish build to get your MK02 fish to MK03, just be aware, yeah, you're going to need a lot of MK02 fish. The nice thing about this was I took the extra regular fish, rendered them, and replenished fish oil here. So I got a little fish oil out of the deal. And then the fish eggs and everything else that came out of the rendering of the fish just got turned into carbon dioxide and vented. So all I got to do is move this egg machine where this machine is with the circle, the fish with the circle around it. This machine here was to get the chance for the fish. And these processes are horrible. Oh my god, they take forever. And sometimes you win, sometimes you have to wait forever and ever. So I just let it run and, like I said, did other projects getting set up for the next episode. So let's switch this around. All right, I got the egg machine here, and it's going to require just the MK03 fish and saline water. All right, I think I got a good basic design. What I usually do is I'll watch the thing, make sure it works for a while. And the issue here is we get MK02 fish, eggs, and fish. And we need to pass through the fish, eggs, and the MK03 fish, eggs, and fish back. We have to pass them back and forth. And then this recipe here to the eggs to the fish here require the good alien sample and the fish hydroslate. So that, and the filtration in lamps, of course. Now, this will spin, we hope to hit on the 25% chance to get 2 extra fish on the fish recipe, eggs to fish. And on the egg one here, we're hoping to hit on the 50% chance to get 2 extra fish eggs. And that's how you get your yield popping up. Now, the red MK02 fish, the 2 dashes there, and the fish MK02s, I want to save those for the Zyhippos. I think it's Zyhippos. I don't know what they're called. So, without further ado, we put our fish in here, and we start the process. Now, I'm going to update, I want to update this with the MK03 fish, swap the modules out. However, the good alien sample is pretty slow. I just got one machine for that. Yeah, you don't really need a lot of it for science. So it'll depend on how fast I can get the good alien sample here. So there we go. We got our first eggs, and bam, now we're producing fish. So hopefully now if you get 6 fish, that's fine. We need 10 eggs to keep this process going, and 6 fish provide 10 eggs with an extra. So we get an extra one on this craft. So I think it builds up pretty quick. All right. So I'm going to end this episode here. We got a lot done, a lot of tedious stuff with these animals. Next episode, we'll carry on with the animals, and I'll pick ones I'm going with the ones that are easier to spin up, and, the exception was the fish food for this thing. But we're kind of getting close to, I think the Zyhippos are ready to be done now, so we'll have to start on those. So I'll come up with a plan, and we'll get cracking next episode. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Peace out.